From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell. After an exceptionally toasty March, a surge of warmth in the west into the first full week of April will again challenge records in many areas. AccuWeather meteorologists say that while the warm-up will not rival last month's in terms of both severity and length, it will act to make drought conditions plaguing the region worse. Fortunately for those starved for moisture, including firefighters battling wildfires in the region, some storminess will return later on in the week as the weather pattern changes again. AccuWeather's Kai Kirkow said that an area of high pressure will build back into the western U.S. through early this week. This will bring a return to warm weather, especially across California, with some record highs even being challenged. Typically, temperatures in early April reach the 60s along the California coast and 70s in the inland valleys, but the mercury will top out in the 80s, even near the coast in places such as San Francisco, while Los Angeles and the Central Valley can approach 90, which would be near record territory. Phoenix is also slated to challenge records in the 90s, while Salt Lake City will climb into the lower 70s by early week, some 10 to 15 degrees above the historical average there. The warmth will not be limited to just the southwest and Intermountain West, but will expand into the Pacific Northwest too, as Portland, Oregon, and Seattle will trade recent highs in the 40s and 50s for near record readings in the 70s. A dome of high pressure setting up across the west will deliver the heat and also put a lid on chances for precipitation for several days. That is some bad news for agricultural interests in the region, especially in the wake of a parched few months. Kirkow said a historically warm winter across California has led to a very low snowpack across the state, with the current snowpack at just 18% of the historical average for early April. This warm spell will continue to melt the already low snowpack across the state. Despite the low snowpack, much of California is free of drought, according to the latest U.S. Drought Monitor update released last Thursday. Kirkow said, "Fortunately for California's water supply, a series of atmospheric rivers earlier this winter brought an abundance of rain to the region, and most of the state's reservoirs are currently at or above capacity. However, with less water to melt into the reservoirs later in the summer, there are still concerns for the availability of water in the future, especially if dry weather continues." Recent dry and windy conditions led to a pair of fires in Southern California, which sparked evacuations last Friday. As of Monday morning, the Springs Fire near Moreno Valley had burned over 4,100 acres and was 95% contained, while a smaller blaze dubbed the Crown Fire burned through about 385 acres near Acton and was 85% contained as of Monday morning. Ongoing dry and breezy conditions will make containing the fires an uphill battle for firefighters through the early week, with smoke also expected to impact air quality in nearby communities. Elsewhere in the West, drought is rampant, with the worst of the conditions reported in Colorado, with nearly a quarter of the state in exceptional drought conditions, the worst of the monitor's 5 categories. This current warm spell will not last long for most. Accompanying the drop in temperature mid to late week will also be an uptick in precipitation chances. Rain showers are forecast to return to Northern California by Wednesday night and expand into Southern California and the interior west and southwest by Thursday and Friday. Winter finally loosened its grip on Fairbanks, Alaska last week after making history. Thursday marked the first day the temperature climbed above freezing since October 31st of last year, snapping a 152-day sub-freezing streak that stands as the longest on record. On more than 30 nights, temperatures dropped to at least 40 degrees below zero, and on January 4th, the mercury plunged to 50 below zero. To put that in perspective, a summer afternoon with a high of 113 in Phoenix is actually closer to the freezing point than 50 below zero. The brutally cold stretch also brought nearly 90 inches of snow to the city. Warmer weather is on the way. Highs in Fairbanks are forecast to reach the 40s on multiple days this week, though overnight lows will still frequently drop into the 20s. And from the 49th state to the 50th state we go. The atmosphere is gearing up for yet another onslaught of drenching rain in the Hawaiian Islands this week. The storm will bring renewed flooding and the risk of mudslides, while also helping to ease some long-term drought conditions there. The third storm in about 3 weeks is expected to take shape west of Hawaii and move slowly eastward. As the storm unfolds, it will draw tropical moisture northward across the islands, bringing occasional drenching showers and thunderstorms to areas that are typically sheltered from rain due to persistent northeast trade winds. Rainfall totals may be similar to the second Kona storm that affected the islands from March 19th through the 22nd. That storm brought 3 to 4 inches of rain to the Honolulu area. Before that, the first Kona storm brought nearly 10 inches of rain from March 10th through the 15th. Combined rainfall from the two storms was nearly 6 times Honolulu's historical March average. Back-to-back Kona storms that brought historic rainfall, life-threatening flash flooding, widespread evacuations, and major infrastructure damage to parts of Hawaii resulted in around $2 billion in total damage and economic loss. That's according to a preliminary estimate from experts at AccuWeather. AccuWeather's Brett Anderson said, "While there has been a bit more of a gap since the storm that wrapped up on the 21st, the ground is still wet, and runoff from the new storm will be swift. Streams and reservoirs are likely to rise quickly. Saturated ground, a new round of heavy rain, and increasing water pressure could raise the risk of levee failure. Looking ahead, while the storm may ease later on in the week and into the weekend, a moist pattern is likely to persist, with higher than typical shower activity in areas that do not usually receive downpours under the prevailing trade wind pattern." That's all for now. You can find more regional forecasts and science-based articles at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day, be weather aware, and I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.